If you've been keeping track of my videos, you would know about the topic of Free Fur All, a furry convention first held just last year. Whilst the convention claims to be apolitical, its practices are anything but. To give a brief description, Free For All takes a large focus on traditionalist American values, and at the same time also catering for extreme right-wing members of the furry fandom. I went over some of this topic in my video on Magnus Deridian, who was a particular member of this convention that caught my attention. Alongside Magnus stood a variety of individuals along the right-wing spectrum. The convention itself hosted everything from comedy,
I'm trying to think of something else to talk about. I want to do the toaster one, but I can't remember.
to a funny little ball pit and an energy-filled fursuit parade. Despite all the laughs and the giggles we had at the first convention after all of its mishaps, shortcomings, and the ensemble of attendees, all at their expense of course, just last weekend we got a second helping spoon-fed to us. Free for All 2023 baby. Friday, July 28th all the way through until the 30th. America's Anthro Convention. Be my wingman. But in order to become a wingman we gotta sign up via pre-registration. $40 entrance fee to all the events, fairly standard. For an additional $60 you can become a captain, which grants you a lanyard, a shirt, a poster, a keychain, a special badge, and you get to play games with the con staff. For another $140 you become a major. You get a Harley the Lion plushie, which is like the mascot of the event seen pictured here in the promotion video, doodling with Cass and playing Gartic phone with the guest of honors. You get to attend a special masterclass, eat food with the guest of honors. You're basically spending $180 to follow them around like a dog, both figuratively and literally. But there's one more tier. Hold on to your seats because this one's a doozy. For an additional $450 you get a private party with the guest of honor and the chairman of the con, some drinking glasses, an engraved dog tag, a patch, and finally a personalized award. I don't know what that means. The rest of the awards sound like last minute thoughts like, shit, they really gave us this much money, we better throw in a fucking dog tag. This tier was limited to 15 people, and they sold out. Now, I'm a furry, right? I am far from judging people on their spending habits when we're willing to drop $6,000 on a dog outfit, but let's quickly look at who we're partying with here. Cabs, Jasonifex, and the chairman. These are the guests of honors at this year's event. Someone who groomed a 15-year-old, someone who bullies and harasses the people around them, married to the 15-year-old he once groomed, and as a power couple they've made feral artwork, promoted hate speech, manipulated roommates, and have been a shameful stain on the not safe for work scene. Peace Wolf, the chairman, is not too much better. Ties the furry alt-right community, the Furry Raiders, spews racist remarks on Twitter, and is currently in a polyamorous relationship with Kabir and Jasonifex. I'm saying that's bad because of their proximity to Jason and Kabir, not because of the polygamy. The attendees of the con weren't exactly favorable either. If these images on your screen don't demonstrate what I mean enough, this is Crusader Cat, who you could say is a bit vocal in their beliefs, and many of the attendees would share very similar beliefs. As members of the aforementioned Furry Raiders were abundant at this con, even hosting several panels and events. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the events and what went down on day one of the con. As you can see from this footage, the interior was decorated with cardboard cutouts, flags, a whiteboard to doodle on as you walk by, and posters. One of the posters states what Free For All is and isn't, with them stating what they have vehemently done already, that Free For All is not a politically charged space for debates, agendas, or harassment. A statement which is contrasted to the overwhelming amount of furry raiders present and the overwhelming amount of everything else at the con. One attendee's recount was that the majority of the people who collected badges and attended the con were members of the Furry Raiders or just plain con staff. And as much of their branding states, American flags were a key point of design for the con. Even the tablecloths were colored like American flags. Although ultimately the most important feature is the return of the ball pit. This time decked out looking much more flash, even sporting a red carpet. Taking a look at the event schedule, we have a variety of hosts. Approximately 2 hours after the opening ceremony, we have a panel on fursona psychology. That sounds like something I'd like. Who runs that? Okay, hosted by AV Era. Let's Google his name. Oh, maybe I don't trust their psychology. This guy, who I'm going to refer to as their other alias Ava Nova, is someone that I'm actually familiar with myself. He was in the comment section of my Magnus video getting all bitchy, which is something he's actually known to do. Moving on, we have the Watering Hole Game Show. Enjoy watching friends annihilate their taste buds? Perhaps you, brave soul, wish to conquer your thirst for adventure and the promise of mighty prizes. If the answer is yes to either, then this fursuit-friendly game show is for you. The Watering Hole Game Show, 9 PM Panel Room 1. And this is hosted by one Cody Wolf, who can also be pictured standing next to close friend and leader of the furry raiders Foxler Nightfire. You're going to have to use your imagination here, as he likes to copyright YouTubers who use his persona in videos. But in another picture we can see the game show in practice. A quick head count shows 12 people in the room, including the cameraman, and including Cody's friend Foxler sporting a Furry Raiders armband. The apparent dullness of the event can be seen in this image. When the Free-for-All Twitter account described the event as "friends annihilate their taste buds," they meant 4 people try and guess the taste of sodas. According to the same guy from earlier, the crowd was just deadpan watching the event, and that seemed to be the overall vibe of the con. Small masses of Furry Raiders getting together in an environment more dull than a retirement home. About the same amount, 12 people also played a game of werewolf as an event, and even a magic event that hired a magician whose only trick must have been to make the crowd disappear. And that concluded day 1 of the con. Oh boy, what events do we have on the table today? Comedy? Uh-oh. Yeah, so if you guys can recall, not too long ago I made my video on Magnus Iridian, and to no one's surprise, guess who showed up for a second time? Yet again wearing the same knockoff suit impersonating someone else that he wore at the last con, prancing this person's image in a public space largely surrounded by furry raiders. Not a good look. This was one of the topics I touched on in my video, one of the arguments that was levied against Magnus that was on the lighter side of the offenses. This guy's history goes as far deep to include teriyaki threats involving chemicals. Even with impersonation, it can be argued that he's been far more disrespectful, as one of the impersonation suits he's made was to the late Lemonade Coyote, which was done after the suitor tragically passed away in a car accident. It just so happens that these arguments must have been noticed by Magnus, cause in his stand-up special joined alongside Ava Nova, they gave a crowd-moving performance.
Who wish to pay me tribute. Tribute? You steal people's fursuits and make them your own. Perhaps the same could be said about all fursuit makers.
Now, I'm not here to critique Magnus's points, as I don't believe it's even said with any seriousness. I find it hard to believe he's unaware of what he's doing. Merely, he just acts to obtain reactions and garner attention in an exhibitionist manner. To further demonstrate that, Magnus has no shame nor regret in making his fraudulent suits of other suitors. This suit spotted at the convention is yet another rip-off design, this time an impersonation of fursuiter Ray's or Twilight Saint. This is not the real suitor at Free For All, nor was whoever is wearing this replica given permission to copy the design. It's highly likely that Magnus was the one behind this suit, maybe made for the same reason as his Braxton Doggo fursuit, being that the real suitor was one of his fursuit crushes. Either way, if you needed further explanation on how scummy this individual is, this is just more proof of concept. And with that, Magnus plays out the rest of his set.
Your words are as empty as your soul. The fandom ill needs a suitor such as you.
What is a furry? A miserable little pile of drama. But enough talk. I'm going to go and get drunk and watch Zootopia.
But don't worry if you thought that event was good. You wait until you listen to Porter Robinson and watch Peace Wolf, Jason and Kabir dance, whilst people just kinda stand around and watch them. I'm being serious when I say that primary school dances were more eventful than this. The music was played through a playlist that was set before the con started, meaning this time around there was no DJ, no one to hype up the crowd, just these three dancing. From these shots alone you can see the lack of attendance. Last year's con wasn't exactly breaking any records, sure, but it could and did label itself as a success. This is just pitiful. Estimates put the member count at around 50 attendees, many of which were just staff, but we'll get back to those numbers later. For the rest of day 2, these guys would party out the rest of the night, and we would fall asleep one last time, until the final day. Rise and shine shoppers, it's time to look at the dealer's den, or at least what's left of it when this footage was shot. What's left standing is a collection of classic furry media such as Fritz the Cat, a name that even I recognize. However, one ironic mention is Song of the South. For the Disney fans, Song of the South was a 1946 American film heavily scrutinized for its glorification of plantations. So much so that Disney even attempted hiding the film and not re-releasing it to home video after backlash due to racial undertones. It is history, and I'm not saying it's racist to keep it around, but the irony in place here writes itself. So, how successful was Free For All 2023? As announced by the guy at the closing ceremony, he throws up a little rocker hand and thanks one person for their generous donation.
$666.13. That is fucking metal.
Before saying the grand total charity donation amounts to $4,000.13. Everybody celebrate, it's a tremendous occasion. Well, not quite. What charity was this event going towards, you may ask? For 2 years running, Free For All's charity of choice has been Safari Sanctuary, an animal sanctuary with a coloured history. This sanctuary in particular has been heavily criticised for its mistreatment of animals. Whilst originally the sanctuary operated as a functioning zoo, due to USDA inspections they would lose their license to be open to the public. Reasoning for their license being revoked is apparent not just for the poor living conditions their animals were living in, but some of what they made their animals do. When viewing the catering services they offer, you could let your small children play with the exotic animals by sticking things on them like feathers or using paints to, quote, add some flair to these tortoises. Also noting, by paying extra you can include other exotic animals. And sticking to the theme of tortoises, check out this boyo from last year's Free For All event. Notice the cratering in its shell? That's a sign of a poor, unsustainable diet, usually caused by a lack of variety, hinting at the possibility if the tortoise hadn't arrived in this condition, that Safari Sanctuary wasn't providing their animals with proper feeding, maybe using the cheapest food they can get. There's more to do with the sanctuary and their countless misdeeds that I encourage you to look into, but for Peace Wolf and the rest of the Awoo Association who developed this convention, the utter lack of responsibility and logic to mess up even just donating to charity is legitimately psychotic. I don't even know how you could even fail at donating to charity right. This con is just a mess. Anyway, if you're as disappointed in the staff of this convention as I am, here's footage of them getting pie thrown in their face, per their promise for reaching $4,000 in charity, which is something your school principal would do for the last day of school, or as this tweet says, the exact same cringe stuff our bosses do at work when we hit our salvage quotas. So with that, we mark the end of Free For All 2023. But what does this con mean for the pride of Free For All? Well, if you remember, I hinted at the extremely low member count earlier. This was not isolated to just the dance hall. The overall attendance from those that even showed up to the con was hilariously minimal. Estimates put the member count at about 50 by passerbyers of the con. If this accomplishes anything, I hope it serves as an ego check for the staff of the con, to Jason and Kabir, and to all of the members of the Furry Raiders who have done nothing but isolate themselves within a community that ostracized them. Bigotry and narcissism have done nothing but left them with a failing con, alone and dancing to Porter Robinson. Even despite the announcement of a 2024 date for another Free For All convention, decreasing media interest from people like me, further isolation, and continuing to peddle blatant propaganda about being such a politically free space, while simultaneously housing almost only members of the Furry Raiders, in my personal opinion, will only stunt their growth as a con, cementing themselves as a fainted memory alongside conventions such as DashCon. Who knows what will happen with Free For All, if we will ever see its continuing. However, all I can say is this is the state your con is in, these are your members, and this is your turnout. For the longer time, people like Jason and Kabir have needed a proper ego check. I hope that this convention over the weekend has provided just that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope the more fun and laid-back style was a nice addition. If you enjoyed it, remember to subscribe and follow my socials in the description, and join my Discord server, also linked in the description. But with that, I'll see you losers all next time. Peace.